Welcome to Sikorski's Think Abouts, and I'm your host, Laura Sikorski. My guests and I share our operations and technology expertise to help you provide outstanding customer service and customer experiences. Today our guests are Randi Bussey, who is the president of Workforce Development Group, and you may remember her. She was one of our early guests in 2014. And Michael Brunken, who is the vice president of operations from NetTel USA. And we are going to talk this morning about the importance of soft skills training. And it's something that a lot of companies forget to do. Even though they may have this wonderful program, they forget how important it is to be welcoming and loving on the phone to the customer. A little bit about Randi. We're not going to go too much into detail because we really have a lot to cover this morning, but she has delighted customers for more than 25 years, working with her former employer, Verizon, and her business now, I believe, is 9 years old, right?
Yeah.
And just to remind you, she has a great book. It's Turning Rants into Raves, and you will find it fun and very interesting and informative. And Randi, as I said, she's a dynamic speaker. She enjoys a good laugh, like we all do when we have our shows. So I think you'll learn quite a bit from Randi. And Michael Brunken, should I call you Mike or Michael?
Mike's fine.
Mike is fine. That's cool. And Mike is vice president of operations of NetTel. And NetTel is a company here on Long Island, one of the few call centers still left on Long Island. And they have three other businesses, Sunrise Credit, Sunrise Capital, but they are a contact center and BPO services company. And Mike's going to explain a little bit about BPO.
BPO is business process outsourcing. So we will take on tasks that companies would prefer to not do in-house, whether it be mail, phone call handling, form, data entry, things of that nature.
Okay, so, and that's, some of you may know it as a service bureau or just a plain old outsourcers, but they are great companies to find and work for because they represent you extremely well in front of the general public. So I first heard about the get-together of the Randi and Mike, and it was in one of our local papers, is Raising the Bar. And it's about customer service and what you can do to train your agents. So I'd like to start with Mike, and if you could talk about the problems that you were having and the solution.
Yes, about a year ago, one of our clients that we handled inbound calls for came to us and asked us to raise the level of customer satisfaction provided by our reps. We tried some internal solutions, and we were making progress, but it was at a very slow pace. It wasn't good enough for us as a company or for our client. We had worked with Randi in the past on some similar training, so we gave her a call, discussed the situation, and had her come in to evaluate where we were and what we could do to move forward and move the satisfaction number higher in a more rapid way.
Perfect. And so then, what happened?
Well, Randi came in, evaluated our staff, and we got the program rolling. But as the slide says, no complaints doesn't mean that we're necessarily doing well. There's many avenues for customers to complain nowadays. Rather, they may not opt in for a survey after a phone call, but they'll tell their friends. They'll explain the experience they had with their friends or coworkers and whatnot. The other avenue, which I think we're all aware of, is social media. So whether it be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, when people are upset, they can get the word out very quickly.
Yeah, and today, I think one click reaches 150,000. People,
yeah.
And it could be positive or negative. And I'm always of the affirmation, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, because it's much better doing it directly to the company rather than blasting it on social media. But okay, so Randi, This is your slide. This is your show for a few slides.
Sure. So, employees are customers too. And so I think a lot of times organizations don't necessarily look at their internal employees as customers, but they really truly are your first customer because they are the face, they are the voice of your company. And how they are being treated internally is going to have a tremendous impact on how they ultimately treat your external customers. And so understanding what it is that they need to raise the bar, I think is really important because, as leaders of the organization, you could think, okay, this is what's going to work, this is what's going to fix it. And not to say you're wrong, but why not go to the very people that you're looking to get a behavior change from and kind of query them to say, what do you need? How can we help you be more successful? And so I set up some interviews one-on-one with probably about, 8 or so employees. We took a small percentage of the employees just to get an idea of what's going on in your mind. Where do you think the organization can go to help you do a better job when it comes to serving customers? And some of the feedback that I received from them, and I just want to mention, you would think, oh, they're not going to talk because they don't want to get in trouble, they don't want to say the wrong thing. But if you can imagine turning on a spigot and the water just shoots out.
Absolutely.
That's what it's like with the employee interviews because they are looking for a voice and they have things, we don't always tap them for the intelligence that they bring and the insight that they have. And so some of the things that they said were, they felt that although they got trained initially when they came on board in the position, they felt like they needed more. And they felt like there wasn't enough communication because you're an outsourced call center. They felt like they weren't getting all of the information that they needed. Sometimes the customers knew more about something that was going on than they actually did. And so from these interviews, I was able to put together a report with some recommendations that I shared with Mike and his team as to how to put a program together that not only is going to give them the skills that we want them to have, but also the skills that they feel they need to have.
And I think a lot of times what people forget is an employee is a company's greatest asset. It's not the financial bottom line. They are an asset, and they are a fountain of knowledge that you can use.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the training plan that you put in place.
Sure. So we like to do things in time, over time. Could we have done an 8-hour training day and then be done with it? Sure. But we believe that training is not a one-time event, and we believe that if we take people through a process and help them change their mindset and then give them the skills, it's going to stick a little bit better. So what we did is we spaced out the workshops, one workshop every 2 weeks over an 8-week period.
Okay, so let's talk about then the first of the 2 workshops. What did they learn during that time?
Sure. So, I usually start the workshops and I say, I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to remind you of what you already know. Because the first 2 workshops were really about mindset. And you and I have spoke about this in the past, Laura. My mantra is, think and act like an owner of the company. And so that's a foreign concept for some employees that, well, I'm not the owner of the company. I can't think that way or do certain things. But it's not about being the owner. It's about thinking like an owner. And, what would the owner do if they were in a certain situation? And so by getting them to think differently about what they do every day is almost the springboard for giving them the new skills. Because if you've got employees that are disengaged, and unfortunately, studies show that there's, I think, 70% of employees, according to Gallup, are disengaged in some way, shape, or form. And so if you have an employee base that is just there for a paycheck, and not really thinking and acting like an owner of the business, you run the risk that training them is going to be falling on deaf ears because, who cares, it's not important.
Right,
So
right.
by setting them up to change their mindset first and getting them more engaged and committed, it's allowing them to then, when we get to the skills piece, to kind of absorb it because now they're thinking like an owner of the business.
Totally agree. And believe it or not, we are ready for our first commercial break. So we'll be back just to hear a little bit more about the second workshop.
Hi, I'm Tim Stead. I'm from Star Communications. We're a marketing support company. And if you need help with your next marketing project, please call 273-1900 or you can go to our website, starcommunications.us.
Welcome back to Sikorski's Think Abouts, and I'm your host, Laura Sikorski. Today we're discussing the importance of soft skills training with Randy Bussey and Mike Brunken from NetTel and Workforce Development Group. And before the break, Randy was discussing the first of the workshops and the importance of the staff thinking like a customer. So if you'd like to continue, please.
Sure. And so one of the other things we talked about in those first two workshops is when you're a customer, what is it that you want? And so we go into work in the morning and we take off our Randy hat and we put on our NetTel hat. But we really need to leave our Randy hat on because as customers ourselves, if we could get emotionally connected to how we feel when we're a customer, we can then be able to bring that humanistic element to the call, which is really one of the things I think we were able to convey to the employees during that time. We also painted the picture of what a great customer service experience looks like when you're the customer. Because how can you ask somebody to change and do something if they don't even know what it is that they're trying to emulate? So by giving them that mindset change and then letting it soak in between the couple of weeks of the program, it really allowed them to open up their mind and be ready for the next two sets of workshops. And so
And what happens is my mantra is think like a customer. And so what I say to the staff is, remember when you took that call and you had that horrific press 1, press 2, and when you finally got to the rep, they asked you for their account number again and how frustrated you were? Think about your frustration every time you hear a customer calling to either complain or had an incident similar to yours. And so that too, the light bulb does definitely go off. So the second of the workshops,
now that we're thinking and acting like an owner of the business, we know what great customer service looks like. Now we want to roll up our sleeves and we want to talk about the actual skills. So what do we say to a customer? How do we respond appropriately? How to really connect with a customer in a way that is so casual, just like we're sitting here having a conversation. If you can think that the person that you're speaking with, although they're a stranger and you may not know them, if you were having a conversation with them at your kitchen table, it would be easy. And that's the kind of conversation that we want the employees to have. We don't want them to interrogate them. What's your name? What's your address? What's your account number? Have it more of a human-to-human conversation. And then, if you get complaints, how to handle them. And one thing I just want to mention about complaints, my philosophy, a complaint is a 4-letter word, but not the one your mother said not to use when you're a kid. A complaint is a gift. And when a customer is complaining, what they're really saying is, could you help me fix it and make it better? So changing that mindset also didn't put people on the defensive when a customer did call and was complaining about something.
and I want to know, did you attend first class, second class?
Yes.
See? Management, you have to remember, no matter what training your staff is going through, sit in on the class.
It was very important. I sat in and the entire management supervisory team was part of it as well. I believe we had our QA people in as well.
Yep, we did.
And then, that kind of sets right into additional training and coaching. Coaching, as we both know, and I'm sure now, and you've always known, that coaching an employee for a job well done as well as polishing is so important in the world of customer service.
Sure, and one of the things that we did in the additional training that the managers went through was teaching them coaching methodology that will help the employees self-discover on their own their area of opportunity. Because if you're the kind of manager that says, you didn't do this right and next time do it like this, the employee is going to get a little defensive and taken back. But if you can actually help the employee figure out on their own by asking them open-ended self-discovery questions, now they're going to get it and they're going to actually own that behavior. So by teaching that coaching style to the managers, they were able to keep it fresh in the employees' minds, and they were able to not have the employee feel like they were on the hot seat when they were in a coaching session.
Right.
Well, and plus coaching is, I'm a big proponent of floor walking. And so as you walk the floor, and if you hear an agent do a great job, tap them on the shoulder, great job. If they could have used a little better wording or something, that's something you keep in the back of your head and you don't do it in front of other employees. But so we did talk about the fact that it is not a one-time event. So talk a little bit about, Mike, how you, after all of this initial training, what have you been doing?
Well, the first thing is, by training the managers and supervisors to be able to coach in that way where the reps they self-realize what needs to be improved, and you can walk them through how to get to where they really need to be without, it's not an insult, it's not a challenge anymore, it's on them to fully realize what could be done better. That's been a big sustainer of our success, and that the managers and the reps both have an understanding of how that process works.
Well, and it truly is not Big Brother watching. I mean, years ago in the call center industry, it was like, oh my God, the way they taught coaching was, oh my heavens, you don't even want to go into the quality analytics or quality assurance places.
Right.
So I think that's a very important point. So after the program was implemented, what happened?
We saw a dramatic improvement in our CSAT scores.
A CSAT, customer satisfaction.
Right. And, it was dramatic to begin with, and most importantly, it's been sustained. Now we're coming on about 10 months since we implemented Randy's approach. We moved up to number 1. I think we're number 2 at this point out of 4 centers. We added about 12 reps in the process in the middle, and we didn't see a decline in our scores, which has always been a challenge. You bring new folks in, they don't fully understand the process and procedure of what our client needs, and that tends to lead to some frustration and probably some poor soft skill handling of the calls. But we didn't experience that to the same degree that we would have in prior years. It's been very successul because it is sustainable, and because it was very easy for the managers and the reps to buy in to the approach. And the client's very happy with the result, which is one of the end goals as a business owner.
That's right. They're happy. You're happy. Happy day, right? So let's. We always end our show with think abouts. So I'm going to ask Randy for one think about what you think our audience should take on the very first. I know you want to hire Randy, but let's talk about takeaway.
I think it's important to walk away with or think about from today's segment is that get your employees involved in changes. Don't just assume you know what it is that they need to change behavior, but really talk to them about what what would be helpful for them, because when they feel like they're part of something, their behavior is going to change accordingly.
Mike?
From my point of view, in the interview process at the beginning was very key to understand who you have working for you. Are they owners? Are they renters? Are they rants? Are they raves? Without understanding that first, you can't implement a program to make corrections going forward. Once we understood where the group as a whole was and where certain individuals were, we were able to tailor the training in a way that made everybody successful.
Excellent. And I'm sure that your staff meetings have changed a little bit about how you ask your employees for their opinions and getting involved. So I want to thank you both. I enjoyed having you at the show today. And to reach Randi, her email is randy@workdevgroup.com, and Randi is with an I, and her phone is 631-598-5598. Now to reach Mike, he is at MikeB@NetTelUSA, and of course his phone number is an 355-7499, extension 3119. And to reach me to be a guest on the show or to suggest possible topics, you could reach me at Twitter, Laura Sikorski, or phone 631-261-3066. And I gave you my office number, and my cell number is 631-624-6650. And as always, we want to thank our videographer, Sam Matthew, and she always does a great job for us. And to Corinne Murphy-Caro, who is the owner of the Daily Blue, Blue Chip Marketing, and Blueprint Magazine. And you can reach her at 631-761-9223. And with that, thank you so much for clicking in, and have a perfect rest of the day.